Hello and welcome to our latest in our series of webinars. Today I'm joined by Jewayne Walker, our in-house mortgage broker. Hi Jewayne, good to see you. Thanks for coming to talk to us today.
Hi Graham.
Just a little bit of housekeeping. At the moment, obviously everyone is in mute and their cameras turned off. And that's how it will remain for the webinar. Today's webinar will last between 20 and 30 minutes, depending on the questions. And you can see from the agenda, we're going to be talking around mortgage in the current climates and how to help with family members get onto the property ladder and how you can find better deals for yourself. We have had various questions fed into us already, which Jewayne and I are going to chat through. But hopefully we'll have some time for other questions throughout the webinar. So please do email in your questions as we go on the info@ email address, or you can use the live chat on the GoToWebinar. If we don't have time to answer all the questions today, Jewayne will come back to you and answer your specific question, or pick up the phone and have a chat with you. So any queries you have, please let us know. Jewayne is here and willing to help. So our first question that we've had raised over the last few weeks is on the screen now. Is now a good time to review my mortgage and my current outgoings? I guess, Jewayne, that's specifically targeting now around lockdown and people's concerns with furlough coming to an end and so on and so forth. So what are your thoughts on that? Is now a good time?
I think on the whole, there's never a bad time to review your outgoings, whether it's mortgages or any of your other bills. It's always good to see where you can make a saving. Usually your mortgage tends to be the largest part of that. So it's definitely worth your while to make sure that, first of all, you're on a competitive rate. And if you're not on a competitive rate, to sort of look at your options to see what you can do to either get that down or to just change it, whether it's discussing it with your existing lender or talking to your advisors or us as advisors. What I will do today is I'll show you some scenarios and situations where clients have reviewed their mortgage early and then just come out of those deals and where we've been able to help them.
Okay.
So on the next slide, we'll see how that works. So in this situation, we had Mr. and Mrs. B had a mortgage on a particularly high rate. I think it was just over 3.5%. And they had 1 year left to run with an early repayment charge that they would have had to pay if they left it early. In this case, they did leave it early, and because rates were really low for their bracket, they managed to make a saving of, I believe it was over £260 a month. And they managed to take money out of their property as well to make home improvements. Funny enough, they're getting a bathroom done next month, I believe it is. So yeah, and they've managed to save themselves a lot of money. And that was just come from a conversation of just completely looking at their current deal and just working out what they would do if they did a like for like. And I think on the like for like basis, they were going to save well over £300 a month. So in their case, it really worked for them to just have a look at it and review it and put it onto a new deal. Just to be aware, this isn't going to be the same for absolutely everybody. As it happened with these clients, they'd bought their first house 4 years before with a smaller deposit, and their house had improved in value. What that meant is they come down to a newer loan to value bracket, which meant that they were able to take advantage of the rates just completely decreasing. So that was the main thing with these clients.
So the key learn here then is, just because you're in a fixed rate, don't think you can't do something about it. So it's always worth giving you a call, having a chat, and just seeing what is out there. Because once you've got the information, at least you know what you can and can't do.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And even if you are in a fixed deal, and that deal is running for, and you've just recently done it, there's no harm in checking. Your worst case scenario is that you're already going to be on the deal that's right for you. So there really is no losing here. Yeah. So if you check, if you've just done it, or if you're already on something that's not going to save you any money, then that doesn't matter. At least you've checked, and at least you know, and you can rest assured that you are on a competitive deal, and you've got no need to do anything else in that case.
Okay, so always have a chat, give you a buzz, and see even in a fixed rate if it's worth coming out and having a look.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, brilliant. So the next question we've had a lot of people querying on the next slide is around helping family members get on the property ladder. So often we'll be asked by our clients, how do I help my child, grandchild get on the property ladder? Thoughts? What will your words of wisdom be around this area, Jewayne?
Yeah, so I think when clients ask this question, I would say I agree with you really. I think we're getting more and more inquiries about this, certainly in the last couple of years. And this would be what we would call an intergenerational mortgage. And there's three ways that you would really help out your children or grandchildren. The most obvious one is the one that people tend to do, and they're doing it less and less now, is a gifted deposit where you just gift the lump sum to your children or grandchildren. Now, exactly as you were saying with a lot of our current clients, is people want to keep their savings intact, and some people don't want to take out their capital and give it to their kids because they want to do more things with it. And the two main ways are, you could do a guarantor mortgage, which basically does what it says in the tin. You are literally just a guarantor. And what that means is you are just guaranteeing the payments. And what happens is the lender will either lock some of your savings in an account, or they would put a charge over your property for the amount of what the deposit would normally be. And they would wait for the child or grandparent to get that down to an acceptable level when they would then re-release the charge in your property or your savings.
Okay.
The key thing to remember that is you are not a borrower. You're not considered a borrower at all regarding the guarantor mortgage. But you would have to seek independent legal advice, because obviously you are going to be part of your property or savings is going to have a legal charge or locked away, but you're going to get no immediate benefit from it. So it's always key to get independent legal advice on that. Okay. And the one that we're going to cover today is what's called joint mortgage sole proprietor, which we are finding a lot more popular and people tend to do. So if we just go to the next slide, and we'll show you a scenario here. Joint mortgage sole proprietor in a nutshell is where parents, so in this scenario, Mr. and Mrs. A, rather than gifting money to their daughter, what they would do is they would go on the mortgage with their daughter. And we know that because property prices are getting higher and higher, it's making it more and more difficult for children or people leaving university or buying a property for the first time to buy a property on their own. Usually your parents would be more established, or grandparents, and they're able to go on the mortgage with you, but not be on the deeds. So as it says here, it's a joint mortgage. However, the child is the sole proprietor. So Miss A in this scenario is able to use Mrs. A or Mr. A's income to boost the amount of money that she can borrow, because you're now using two incomes. Right. Which is fantastic, in the sense that it means that Mr. and Mrs. A don't have to use any of their money, provided Miss A is saved enough to do this mortgage. The main benefits of it is that Miss A owns a property on her own, parents are on the mortgage and not on the deeds. And because they're not on the deeds, it means Miss A would save her first time buyer rights, which means she would have no stamp duty to pay on the property. Whereas if it was just a standard mortgage, it means that they would incur an increase in stamp duty charges, which is what we're trying to avoid here. So you're going to get a double benefit of being able to use your parents' income, not use any savings, and not pay any stamp duty. So
okay. So the difference from what I hear is the guarantor mortgage then, is that mum and dad effectively aren't on the mortgage, but they end up putting their own personal property as collateral effectively.
Absolutely.
Okay. And in the second example, they are on the mortgage, their income is taken into account, so they end up having to pay the mortgage if son or daughter default. But they're not actually an owner of the property, so the stamp duty benefits remain intact.
Absolutely. I think the reason why the joint mortgage sole proprietor one is more appealing is it allows their son or daughter or grandkids to buy a property that they wouldn't be able to buy under normal circumstances. I think the key thing to understand here is with the guarantor mortgage, you are literally just guaranteeing payment, and and you're not on the mortgage, so you don't get the boost in income, which means you can't borrow anymore.
Sure.
People are doing this because it means their children can borrow more than they would be able to under normal circumstances. So yeah, and again, with both of these products, you have to seek independent legal advice, because again, in this scenario, you are taking all the liability of having a mortgage, but no benefit of owning a property. So lenders will make sure that that is something that you do.
But I guess the second one is a really good way of doing it, because obviously these days rents are so high that often Miss A can afford the mortgage payments quite happily out of her income. She just can't multiply it up sufficiently to get the property she wants.
Absolutely, you've hit a nail on the head there. Rent is just getting more and more expensive in most places, really. And with mortgages, rates have sort of remained pretty low, depending on what loan to value that you're at.
Sure.
So yeah, you will find that even if it's a mortgage that the child, or Miss A in this scenario, couldn't afford on her own, she would still more than likely be able to cover the monthly repayments. Part of our process is that we would make sure that this was affordable anyway, because that's the right thing to do. We would always make sure that this is affordable.
So in your duty of care, you'll always make sure that Miss A can afford the property once the actual lump sum has been made available by mum or dad's salary, boosting the mortgage amount, but it's then making sure she can afford it each month. Yeah,
absolutely. And not only do we do that, I think we've also got to bear in mind that the lenders are very hot on this, and they will make sure that it's affordable regardless anyway. So not only are they checking, we're also checking as part of our process, which is absolutely the right thing to do.
Brilliant. That's great, Jewayne. Thank you very much.